Hey Brickmaniacs, welcome back to another Designer Studio episode. To call this a long-awaited episode is kind of an understatement, to be totally honest, because the return of the F-14 was long-awaited from a fan standpoint, and obviously us here at the HQ, we're excited to see what this new edition would look like. So this is the F-14D Tomcat, more specifically the final flight of the Tomcatters, I believe is what they were referred to. So I got Dan joining me as always to go over not only the build itself, but all the printing, the minifigs, etc., just like we do here on the Designer Studio. So Dan, talk to me a little bit about, obviously you scooped the base model out of the GHQ, kind of looked at it, played with it, saw what you wanted to be able to improve. Where did you start?
Well, it was broken when I got it. So honestly, the first thing I did is figure out what the wing mechanism wasn't working. The wheels, the landing gear weren't attached correctly. So I went through it and said, well, obviously these are the weak spots. Right. These are the places I'm gonna concentrate on. There's nothing wrong with the previous design. I mean, it's a great model. I just thought like we could work on ways to improve it.
Yeah, like we do with all of them.
And I'm going to start with what makes the different makes. We're going to make the F-14A, F-14D,
right.
Two different aircraft, same airframe, but vastly changed both in mission and capabilities.
Sure.
So I wanted to update not only the previous model, take the best parts out of it, because it was a beautiful, gorgeous model. There was no fault in that at all, but there's always things that could use improvement. That's
especially after that many years.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's certain things that I figured I could add while we're doing it. So I did change the way the wings are built.
Yeah, there's no little crank in the back anymore. They just kind of work.
Oh, right, yeah. But also just even the shape of the wings, even the parts you use. So it's the build is a little bit different. It is a very distinct shape, so there wasn't a whole lot I could change. But I was able to get these forward slats on here that they do move. You are able to pose them.
Cool.
The mechanism. Why don't we stop?
Yeah, I was going to say, don't try to do it while it's spinning around. That just makes it more difficult.
This actually does fold up quite well. While I was working on it, we were just giving it the once over from the test build. Actually pulled a couple pieces out of the inside that was limiting the way that this thing folds up a bit. So if you get a couple of extra tiles in your plane, it's because I pulled them out. I was like, yeah, you know what? It does interfere a little bit with the way that the wing folding mechanism works. But I mean, you can fold it one-handed. It's not a.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I wouldn't recommend. It's still Lego. I think there's a video on my Instagram. I'm holding it by the wing. You can do that, but I wouldn't recommend showing it off that way because
too terribly much.
Yeah, if you do break it, I mean it's probably not going to drop on the floor, but you will have to take it apart to reconnect the wings.
Right.
And that is not a fun task. This is a big airplane, and by the time you have the wings on it and then you flip it over, put all that ordnance on it, there's really no place on the bottom that you can grab this really easy, except maybe by the tail here. But other than that, I mean, look at the bottom of this thing.
Yeah,
it is all ordnance, and you try to pick it up, you're gonna grab a missile, you're gonna grab a bomb. So
well, and I think that's what people were kind of affectionately referring it to as the Bombcat.
yeah, because that, like I said, it was a change of mission. The F-14D, the F-14A, or the original F-14, as wasn't A or B, it was just the F-14. It was designed to be an air superiority fighter.
Right.
And not only air superiority, but it could carry these over-the-horizon missiles. So if you're in this, a floating city, basically as an aircraft carrier, and your biggest threat is going to be enemy aircraft that can air launch cruise missiles at your
from a distance.
Yeah, from a distance. So you have your early warning aircraft, your radar aircraft up there. They can detect incoming hostile aircraft. This had a Phoenix missile that could shoot over the horizon 100 miles.
Wow.
So this has its own range. Gets up in the air. It's patrolling at a distance, a standoff distance away from the aircraft carrier. And then it again has ordnance that can fire 100 miles over the horizon. Very far. So
the range is what made it so superior.
Right. But it also has a cannon. It's a very agile dogfighting aircraft. We've all seen Top Gun.
As we've seen, yep.
It does have a cannon. It does have shorter range air missiles. And later on, as these things sort of aged into the fleet, they started giving it more and more missions. They realized that this could do the same missions as like the Skyhawk, the Intruder, but also still have the air-to-air capability. They started giving it more tasks, and part of it was the creation of the D model. The D model was the integration of the ground targeting. So these never were designed to fight over land at all. And when they did the ground, they did the integration to make it ground attack capable. It was when they had this lantern pod, which I believe you can see on right there. It's basically a camera and sensor pod that they hung in one of the ordnance spots that these guys could actually target land things.
Right.
Laser designator, they could drop smart bombs, either for themselves that they're carrying or for other
aircraft. Yeah, very cool.
Originally, they first started putting these things on. They first started carrying bombs. They had to have another aircraft go along as
as guides.
Yeah, as the designator for it, and they couldn't even designate their own targets. But that changed once they got that lantern pod.
Wow.
And it changed the mission. So these, after the Gulf, second Gulf War, these were used extensively to fly ground support missions, ground attack missions. And they could do it at quite a distance. So they could drop their bomb several miles away from their target, and with pretty good accuracy and assurance that they could actually hit that target, on the first try.
So needless to say, one of the most versatile aircraft, especially through its lifespan, that pretty much has ever been utilized.
Right, and people lament that, hey, this thing only, it was retired way too early. Blah. This thing had like almost a 30-year career.
Yeah, which is saying something, definitely.
I think, so like early 70s to like the early or the mid 2000s. That's a pretty long haul for a fighter aircraft. So we've done one of the early models. We did the
OG
A model.
F-14, yeah.
And then this signifies the end of the F-14 line. So now we have the beginning of the history. This signifies the end. This is like sort of the penultimate. We call it a Super Tomcat. There is actually a real Super Tomcat. So they made a prototype of what the Navy would consider the next, or what Grumman was like. This is the next Tomcat. It was even more futurist. It had more capabilities. This thing was This was light years ahead of the original one. I mean, think about like an entire generation had gone by with both people and electronics.
Technology continuing to evolve.
So this thing was pretty special when it retired. But then by the end, they had a real Super Tomcat in the wings, so to speak, and it got canceled.
Yeah.
It was basically the F-18 won out in the competition, and it goes to that whole newer, shinier toys, and the Tomcat was a great warhorse for the time it was
tried
there.
and true. Yeah.
But there was just, it had certain detractors, and part of it was the complex swing wing. This thing, I mean, I know this is complex because I had to build it several times. Just before we came to record this is actually the prototype model rebuilt to the instructions, so we were making sure everything was working right. And I found a glitch in it in the building, so I had to go back and pull it apart and say, hey, what was going on? So microsurgery on this thing.
Hey,
so,
that's what happens. It continues to evolve. Yeah.
So, but it's put together. Man, this is such a nice model.
Yeah, it's really, really excellent. Not only from a physical build standpoint, but then when you integrate the new era of Brickmania printing, I mean, just everywhere you look on this thing, there's printed elements.
I think we were talking about that earlier. Like the Navy likes to print everything.
Yeah, no kidding. They really like to deck them out.
Right. So that's the way it is. I mean, this model is no exception. But there's printing everywhere, and there's printing on the inside of the vertical stabs.
No stone left unturned. That's for sure.
Yeah. Both sides. It's pretty crazy. Lots of cross element printing, I should say. We even printed the canopy, which is not something we normally do. So, printing on a round surface with a printer that basically prints on a horizontal plane is a very difficult operation.
Presents its own challenges for
But
sure.
we were able to print, those happened to be perfect cylinders that made life a little bit easier. So we were able to print the canopies. Don't expect that to be on every aircraft going forward, because it's not going to be normal.
Can't necessarily be standard yet.
We can do very difficult all the time. We can do the impossible.
Every once in a while.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Obviously comes with a pair of minifigs that we got seen pictured there next to the stand.
Right, and the minifigs are amazing.
Yeah, they're really, really cool. Those helmets alone, I mean, my goodness.
Look at that helmet. It's printed on all the way around. The top, the side. You've got Felix the cat. I mean, he is so iconic. He's all over that helmet. So you have two. They are unique. They're not like two of the same. So they are two unique figures. Yeah, I mean, all around, this is just an awesome plane.
Obviously, the missile upgrades. This would have been the first one that we would have seen those 3D printed tips on there, right?
Yeah, we did the Sparrow. That's on this side. We did the Sparrow missile, and then the Sidewinder. They're still a work in progress. They may have some more evolution left in them, but they compared to what we had before, they're leaps ahead. So we're just getting started, I think, on all these missiles. This would be loadout typical. It actually has four 4 laser guided bombs on the bottom of this thing. I'll just pick that up.
There we go.
Whoop. And there's one of those tiles I was talking about. So yeah, there's you got 4. I guess they're laser JDAMs. Is that what they're? I don't remember.
But you
It's
got
been a
4
long
of them.
time. GBU something something.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
acronyms, to say the very
Right.
least.
It's in the instructions. I can tell. If I was looking at the instructions, I remember
The reference
exactly what
material.
there's
You'll have
so
that.
many- yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah. So there you go. That's that. Couple of months in the pipeline. I'm just happy to see it finally done. This is the first of many Tomcats, I think. So
Yeah.
we're already discussing what's going to be the next one. I'm not sure if we're going to make any more of this one.
Okay.
We've done 3 batches now,
I want to say so. Yeah.
and they're all sold out. So I guess if you really want to invest in another, if this
In
you
this
have your
one in
heart set,
particular.
heart set on this one, either get to a store or send a message, either comment on here or talk to our customer service team, because we could theoretically throw another batch of this in the pipeline. We've done all this work. I'm just not sure if we this is an expensive.
Yep.
It's an expensive kit, which also means that it's an expensive project for us to undertake. It takes up
Absolutely.
a lot of our resources.
I mean, look at how much brick is tied up in it. Then
Yeah.
you consider the printing, minifigs, etc.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely a deal. No
So-
doubt. But then when this is the end result, I mean, I know there's going to be a lot of people waiting on it to ship, whenever this video does eventually drop, they're just going to be sitting there being like, I can't wait to have that on my desk,
Yep.
in my collection, even if it's sitting next to your old one. I mean, it's going to be elite.
And this is proof the instructions work.
Yeah, there you go.
I spend hours and hours and hours making the model, then I have to spend another equal amount of time making the instructions, make sure that you can put it together.
Right, which is what a lot of people don't understand about the actual time-consuming portion of it. They look at the build and think, man, that must have taken Dan forever to build it. And it's like, well, yeah, in many cases it does. But then you get to the actual instructions, in which place you got to translate it so that someone like, me could put it together. And that's exactly where the real talent lies, in being able to put those things together in a way that doesn't make you want to, yank your hair out.
Well, it might actually do that too. So it's not an impossible level build, but it's got its challenge.
Definitely, yeah.
The wings in particular.
Yeah, look at just even in the cockpit, all of the printed details, everything on the seats.
I showed turn the rear around so you can see those air brakes on there, the speed brakes.
Yeah, no shortage of play functions. As Dan likes to say, it does everything it's supposed to do.
Even the arrestor hook is printed. So.
My goodness.
Yeah, we spared no expense. So every little warning plate, everything on there that can be done is on there. And, it was just a lot of fun. I'm happy to see that this is the final product. It's finally done, and you're going to get to enjoy this.
Yeah, I agree. And for a long-awaited return, I think going the no expense spared, let's see everything we can bring to the new era of these builds is exactly what people wanted to see out of it. And I highly doubt anybody will be disappointed, because this is pretty elite and excellent. So there you have it. That's the Designer Studio episode for the F-14D Tomcat. Remember what Dan said. If you have your heart set on this model, make sure you don't leave this video without leaving a comment and letting us know, because we'll definitely consider it. But otherwise, like we always do around here, it's on to the next latest and greatest thing. So Dan, thank you very much for joining me, and thank you very much for watching.